Hilary Shor started at the desk of a talent agency, breaking music stars like Phil Collins into movies. And she still manages actors today, in addition to producing movies. Her producing credits include Children of Men, directed by Alfonso Cuaron, who did Gravity, the documentary Beautopia, a deconstruction of the modeling industry, the spy thriller Eye of the Beholder with Ewan McGregor, and 2 movies directed by Lee Daniels, The Paperboy, a crime story with Nicole Kidman and Zac Efron,
is in the bottom box.
And of course The Butler, a historical drama with Forrest, Whitaker, and Oprah Winfrey, which you saw tonight.
You know he got that job himself. The White House called him. He didn't call the White House.
Did you go to an all-colored school, Cecil?
I didn't go to school, Mr. President.
Everything you are and everything you have is because of that Butler.
Moderating tonight's Q&A is Tova Leiter. Tova's credits include Glory with Denzel Washington, Oliver Stone's Nixon, Evita with Antonio Banderas and Madonna, and Varsity Blues. Now, will you please help me in giving a very warm welcome to our very special guest, Hilary Shor.
By the way, the only reason I'm here tonight is because of Tova, because I should be at the Women in Film Awards being fabulous. But I'm being fabulous here with you.
There you go. She was...
Thank you, Tova.
She was invited to sit at the table of Nicole Kidman tonight because she made a movie with her, and instead she had a commitment to be here, and she's here.
Rule number 1 of the entertainment business, be on time and fulfill your commitments. If you say yes, you mean yes. Otherwise, that's why nobody ever says yes. That's why nobody ever commits to anything, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to tell you that I was at the Toronto Film Festival, and I was sitting at a table there with Tom Bernard from Sony, and he was telling a producer that should be nameless.
Why?
Because,
everybody's at the Crystal Awards.
Because there was a guy, that producer was somebody who does have money but did really more exploitation genre movies. And I heard him say, he said, listen, you should check out this script called The Butler. It's at Sony, Laura Ziskin was supposed to do it, and you should check it out. And I said to myself, that guy's not the right guy to revive something like this. I knew a little the story. I knew it was a true story. So I called Cassian Elwes. I emailed Cassian Elwes. And I said to him, listen, you know, The Butler. And he said to me, I'm on it already with Lee Daniels. So obviously you were in The Paperboy.
Yeah,
and that's how...
We were all in The Paperboy together. Cassian, who is a very prolific producer who, you know, really comes from more of a financial rather than a creative aspect. We had survived The Paperboy together, where almost no one other than Zac Efron survived in The Paperboy. If you've ever seen the movie, next year when I come back, we'll show The Paperboy. But we'll
it's
have
a
cocktails.
Fantastic, twisted,
it's a
sexy...
movie. It's very interesting because when Alfonso and I did Children of Men, it was very poorly distributed by the studio. The studio had undergone a transition just as we became greenlit, which is not a happy place to be. And as I've always said, we made the most expensive art film ever made. And the studio, in their great wisdom, decided to release that film, which cost a lot more than it says on the IMDb, in 6 theaters on Christmas Day. Well, if you've seen that movie, which is exactly not an upper, but, you know, one we do survive in that one, you wouldn't say this is a Christmas Day release along with the latest Muppet movie. And I remember sitting there on the 26th saying, having a conversation with, you know, the then, head of distribution. I'm sitting here trying to figure out how I'm going to release this movie, other than in 6 theaters on Christmas Day. So it was a very disappointing experience for Alfonso and I in the domestic market. We felt like our baby, which we had struggled so hard to bring to fruition, had not been treated well. And I I did a lot of crying on that film. I don't cry anymore. Saying, even when they threw me off the jet, I don't cry. And he said to me, Hilary, this film will live in history. Our film in time will be appreciated. Our film in time will be taught in schools, and our film in time will really be understood the way we understood it. And that film particularly has, a couple of years ago was listed as like one of the top 10 films of the last 20 years or so. And Lee and I feel that way about Paperboy, where we made this crazy movie. I don't think Nicole has ever been better. We had the best time. I mean, Lee Daniels' daughter is here somewhere. Clara, are you here? Where is she? Clara, are you right
Hey.
there? I mean, this poor child is the spawn of Lee Daniels. And, honey, we survived. I mean, the Butler was easy street. The Butler was easy street compared to what we went through on Paperboy. I mean, Paperboy was filmed in the swamps of Louisiana. And one day, we came down there, and it was Avi Lerner, the way he makes movies, he financed the film. He, tells you what you're going to do in that you have his crews and blah, blah, blah. So the first day that we went down to the swamp, they told us all these rules. You had to have netting. We had to buy these mosquito equipment to, get rid of the mosquitoes. We had to wear these boots. So Lee comes out in a full, like bees hat, and I'm like dressed in head to toe rubber, blah blah blah. And we get out there, and the crew is like in shorts and sneakers, and they fucked with us. That's the bottom line. We look like we got out of the car. And I was like, they fucked with us. Like, they made fools of us. They did not do that on the Butler, I can tell you that, right? In the Butler, it was a whole new thing. But the Paperboy will live in history, and if nobody has seen it, you should look at it. It's a very wonderful film of Lee's, and it's very, very special.
It really
Great
is.
performances.
Yeah.
We'll do that next year.
Yes. But not on the Day of Women in Film.
Yeah.
I mean, Paperboy is so different from Precious. And so why did you think about Lee Daniel for that, and how did you get him?
Well, Lee Daniels got me. I mean, our partnership, and we're about to start our next movie together, we'd known each other forever.
Oh, really?
When he was before this one was, born, I was a Hollywood agent, and he was a manager. And this was, during a difficult time in Hollywood where there's a lot of craziness going on. And Lee and I were, he was crazier than I was, but we were having a lot of fun, let's just put it that way. I don't think you ever had that kind of fun. Ish.
I thought I did, but now I'm starting to feel really bad.
I don't think you had quite as much fun as we did, which is not a good thing in hindsight.
Okay.
And so we've actually known each other for 30 years. So we had known each other, and we'd actually fought and loved and hated each other and, hung up on each other, back when we were both representatives, and would run into each other, and we'd always kind of, sneer at each other. And then I had this wonderful script that I had optioned a book that to this day has still not been made, which was, it's an incredible world. It's a prequel, a theorization of the prequel to Huck Finn, and there's this wonderful author who predisposed what the world would be if who Huck Finn's father was and his mother, and wrote this. I mean, you want to talk dark. I mean, it is as dark as you can get, and it was just fantastic. And I optioned the book, developed a script, and the writer who did the script for free insisted at that point on sending it to Lee. I was like, all right. And then Lee and I reconnected, this is probably 10 years ago, and fell in love, as you do, with a gay man. And, we're like an old married couple in terms of our producing. And I started working with him at the end of Precious when they were in the edit. And we never got Finn made, which we talk about all the time. He'd known about Paperboy from maybe 10 years before, and we were talking about what we could do together. And he said, I have this script, let's get it going. Let's take it out, let's get it financed. So we took it out, we got it financed, and we cast it, which at that point, it's just so interesting to see his development and our development in how a relationship between a director and a producer goes, where on Paperboy, I had to really do a producer's job to put the cast together for him. And he had never really worked with movie stars before in quite that way as leads. And it was, something to convince the community that this is an auteur and this is not kept saying it's not an African-American great director. He is a great director. And he is capable of getting great performances out of people. And that is, something that is not about age, race, create anything. It's about humanity, and it's about the performances that no one other than he can really bring to fruition. And he proved that in Paperboy. And I think that, the things that you see him do in terms of his casting, and I use the plural, our casting together, because, of course, he's always right. Right, Clara? Oh, yeah, baby. I think that that's also his particular skill in having come from this history of being he was a director, he was a casting director, he was a manager and represented people, and also, truly has an empathy as an actor. And I think that that's the thing that sets him apart, both in his ability to cast and his ability to bring those performances out of people. So that's the long story as to we found each other. We found each other through starting to work on a project together. And I keep saying, ugh, not another movie. I can't do another movie. And then it's like the mafia. He just keeps pulling me back in.
Well, I think that if you're a producer in Hollywood and you develop a relationship with a viable director, I think it's like one of the best platforms you can have.
Well, it's like trust. I mean, I think that, the thing to look at is often, this is a business. The best part of this business is when you have repeat business. It's why directors like to work with certain actors. It's why the cinematographers, producers, line producers, your crew, how to work together. And it's in the best worlds, if you are a director or a producer who has the luck of being able to forge a relationship with a director, because I'm not a financial producer, I'm a creative producer. Like, what else is it? It's really about partnering with someone and protecting them and pushing them and making them better and, keeping them happy so that they can do the job that, quite frankly, no one else can do. I always say, oh, yeah, you think it's easy to direct? Try it. It's the hardest job there is. It's really, 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 you're out there on the precipice, just, waiting for something to happen. So a producer, there's many, as you well know, there are many, many different permutations of being a producer. I always wish I could be that other kind of producer, the one who writes the check. That's really easy.
How did you become a producer?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's like things happen. You fall into things.
So I have a better question for you.
Yes, honey. I don't want to talk about the marriage. No.
No, I'm talking about being resilient and keeping at it. And as it gets harder and harder and harder, you're still in that game. And how do you do it, really, mentally?
Listen, I think that it's, I remember when I was your age, I was so passionate about being in the business. And the business is very seductive. It's the most interesting, the smartest, the funniest, the most charming people in the world that you will ever meet. The writers and the directors and the producers and the artists and the people who have a real love of whether it's cinema or television or writing. It is, I think, for people like me who, my father was a builder developer. My mother, was like a Jewish girl from Washington, D.C. I went to Smith College and was supposed to, I don't know what I was supposed to do. Everybody back then, they had Peter Pan collars, they wrote, they got married. That clearly was not my thing. And I came out here and I started going to the Annenberg School of Communication. And I had no reason in the world to get into the business other than I had read a book by F. Scott Berg about Max Perkins, who was a literary agent. And I thought, oh, well, I think I'll be a literary agent. And that was the beginning of my trajectory. And I've had, as have we all, many, permutations, and I've risen from the ashes many, many times. And I think that there's a couple of things. A, I didn't have any options. I was like, I can talk back then we talked on the phone, remember? I mean, when we started, you talked on the phone, and you had to be really good on the phone. And then you used to have to get in the car and drive to the Valley and go into Warner Brothers and be charming and, go to lunch and go to dinner and be charming and mostly talk on the phone and get people to do what you wanted them to do. Well, so what else am I going to do? I'm going to be a producer because I can usually get my point across and at times get people, actors, to do what I want so I can get them to the set to do what my director wants. That's the number one skill I have. And I just, there was no other options. I mean, I didn't have anyone supporting me. I supported my family. I had to make it work. So I didn't have the freedom to say, oh, I don't think I want to do this anymore. It was like, I could talk on the phone.
Right.
Yeah.
I have noticed that you have a big connection with actors. Whenever I see you, you have actors around. You're also managing actors. Mm-hmm. What is that affinity?
I think that...
and you just told me you're good with actors and getting them to set.
I love actors. I mean, I think that unlike a lot of producers, I love actors, and I think great directors love and understand actors. And I think that that is probably what is why even at this next back nine of my life and my career, I find my career having tremendous momentum, which is kind of nice because the producers' salaries are going down. So my momentum better be getting on. And I think that my success, if you call it that, really comes from understanding what an actor goes through and having empathy. And I'm not frightened of actors, and I think that that's something that they instinctually know and they trust me. And I think that that's something that is very unusual for a lot of producers. Or
yes,
actors feel that way. Yeah, I'm not scared of them. I'm like, honey, come on. We're going to go to set now. And it's like, get out of that.
But they always want something.
Yeah, they want to be loved. They want something
all the time.
They want the truth, but what they, just like animals and just like children and just like us, we instinctually know what they know what the truth is. And the truth is that they don't trust a lot of people. And if they can trust you, so when you say, if you don't get out, somebody a lot meaner is coming into this trailer, so make me look good and get the fuck out of the trailer so we can go to set, and then we'll have dinner tonight and we'll talk about your boyfriend. And it's as simple as that. Nobody speaks the truth. So my thing always is to be very, very honest, whether it's with my directors, my co-producers. I think, another thing as a producer, particularly a woman, is that, and early in my career I didn't know this, nobody knows anything. When you meet a producer on a set, they know everything. Have you noticed that? They know everything. I know I don't know everything, because it changes. It's like what I know about a camera pack last year has changed. That's not my job. My job is to be able to choose and help my crew and help my director choose my crew and then help manage my crew so that if my, DP is saying to me that line producer's not letting me have something, I'll say, explain it to me so I know why I have to fight for this for you. And not the assumption that, oh, of course. It's about choosing the right people and helping them do their best work. And that's like a cliche, but that's at the bottom of it. And
but let me ask you something. I found out that my hardest thing when I was a producer was really, I felt that I was always between the studio and the talent.
And that's the bottom line. And you can say to your director, back me up, man. But in the panic, that's where you have to understand everybody's afraid, everybody's fearful. Everyone, the studio has, all of it is, everybody just needs a lot of therapy. And, it really is about not having an ego and not having your anxiety. What's the worst that's going to happen to me? First of all, I'm a woman. They're going to blame me for everything anyway. And it's like, okay, blame me. Because the truth is there. The truth is there with your director who really knows. The truth is there with the agents, which is where I have also another particular strength, in that they know that if they let me have their client for a Schedule F or for, whatever, their client is going to be very well taken care of and feel safe and feel like there's someone there for them. And, that's the truth. And the truth is that the actor who, I'm not going to go into names, but there are a lot of actors that I've worked with who do, work all the time, and they don't collect people like me as being part of their life. It's like, oh man, that person doesn't talk to the producers. Once they're gone, they're gone. And I find that, and that's the truth. So it's not easy, and the hardest time is when you're in production, and it's also the most fun time. And that's where everybody gets emotional and crazy, and you kind of have to have an absolute, you have to, take a deep breath and just be very strong and not get shaken. I mean, I got called into Forrest Whitaker's trailer so many times, and, I was the one who had to go into Oprah's trailer and tell her that her acting coach couldn't be on set anymore. That was good. That was a fun day. And
because
that's a fine line between distractions. And of course she stayed off for 2 days and then she came back, and she's an incredible acting coach, and she was great. But there was just some days that it was just not the right thing. And it's like, oh, I'm gonna go in there and tell Oprah off. It's like, Forrest, oh, nobody wants to go talk to Forrest.
I am interested to know how you tell Oprah that she can't really have that acting coach all the time. I want to know how you did that.
I say, Oprah, the rules were the acting coach couldn't be on the set. So that was the rule before we started. You all broke the rules. Everybody looked, the other way. But now, this is not new news. So, there was just a little bit over the line. And so remember that day, Clara? When I took you to the doctor and I came back? Remember? Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. Oh, yeah. We were in the plantations,
And so?
And so, listen. She's a really smart woman, and she is someone who, by the way, more than anyone, speaks the truth. And she goes, okay, I get it.
Right.
I was like, thank you. Thank you, O. And I like the handbag she gave me at the end of the shoot, too.
And what was Forrest Whitaker's problem?
It was just, I can't even remember what it was. It's usually these little things because everybody's emotional. I mean, everybody gets emotional.
Right.
Terrence Howard liked to talk, so I had to go and kind of be his AD and say, Forrest, you go that way, Terrence. Let's go to set. Come on, Terrence. Stop talking to the craft services person. Let's get to set. Don't talk to the little children, Terrence. You're scaring them. Let's go. And he's just brilliant. I mean, I'm so happy for everybody with the success of Empire. I mean, Terrence is truly, truly so talented. I can't say every single person on the Butler set, every actor, I just cannot say enough about. I mean,
by the way,
I
not long ago, probably a month ago, I had Stephanie Olan here, and we showed Hustle and Flow. And boy, you can't take your eyes off Terrence Howard.
No. Amazing.
Right? It was just an incredible An incredible
Well,
film.
neither could the craft services girls.
And you had to fight them off.
I was like, he's got to go act now. We only have him for 3 days. You know, let's go.
I like her style, don't you? Yes. You know, the hardest thing is really to tell the actor news that you know they're not going to like. And I guess I'm finding out now, after all these years, that the best way is just tell it as it is.
Tell them the truth. I mean,
Tell the
because
truth.
actors, talented actors, are in touch with their emotions. They're observant. That is what they are trained to do, and that is the reason that they come to this work. So they're on to us if you're trying to pull a number.
Yeah.
And if you are just honest and direct and, you know, sensitive and say, listen, you know, I know it's crazy, but you got to help me. I mean, we had 1 million producers on that movie. And these guys would come down, and it would be like, I'd have to body block these people. I was like, there's some of the producers on. I was like, who are these people? I mean, you know, they were there all the time. And the actors are there. We were under a lot of pressure. It was period. Forrest particularly had this incredible arc to play, and he's so method. And I would literally have to do a cordon sanitaire around, you know, the actors at times to let them have their safe place. Well, you try to tell that to a producer, you know, like they don't understand the financial producers. They don't understand the process and what it takes and what it takes to go there. And you know, particularly in a period movie where you're inhabiting a different, you know, you build it from the underwear up. You're inhabiting a different space and a different world and all of that. But it was a really happy set. I mean, all of Lee's sets are really happy.
I remember when this movie just didn't go and didn't go and didn't go all those years,
Oh
and
my
suddenly it was like, and even then you needed so many people and so much to
was the
come
difficult
aboard,
thing.
and then suddenly everybody wanted to be in that movie. Suddenly it was crazy.
I don't think everyone wanted to be in the movie. I beg to differ. You know, we got everybody in the movie, but what was so challenging with that film was that, in fact, the financing came together in part because of our Oprah and Forrest and Lee, of course. But probably what my greatest challenge as a producer was casting those presidents, because they, in part, were the fiscal elements that drove the final financing. You know, bits were dropping. I mean, it was really, really difficult. And so you had to cast people who could appropriately play historical characters. You had to find people who were available at very specific times. You had to essentially find people who would agree to come to the party for not very substantial roles who were used to starring in their own movies. And it was this constantly juggling, like, you know, getting somebody approved who could help drive the financing, then figuring out if we could, without too heavy prosthetics, because we didn't want it to be a prosthetic movie, inhabit that world. 3, it was the summer and everybody was on vacation. I mean, Liev Schreiber flew back from a vacation in France, dropped off his wife in London, flew to New York because his air conditioning had, you know, fallen apart, and then came down to New Orleans. Literally, I think it was like a 26-hour flight, and the deal was with his manager was that I would personally pick him up at the airport. Well, he was really happy when I picked him up, I can tell you. That was good. But that's the kind of commitment that it took, and everybody got paid nothing. Everybody got paid pari passu, which is pretty much nothing, which was the way I had to build the deals. And I started the deals with Oprah. You know, it was kind of like all roads lead to Oprah. And so we started there. And it was a mosaic.
But she needs the money.
Oh, yeah. She was amazing. I have to tell you, she absolutely was, you know, and every single person on that set, there was no attitude. Everyone just came to do the work, and they came for Lee. I mean, they really came for Lee. And I think that, you know, pulling together that momentous world
Yeah.
is really testament to his draw for talent.
Yeah. By the way, I thought Oprah played such a different role here.
Oh,
very,
she was
very
amazing.
interesting.
When she died,
I know.
we don't watch that.
I know. Oh, it was sad. Any students want to ask question?
What is one thing that what is the best advice you would give to a young actor?
Take fountain.
Yeah, nobody ever told me that. I think the best advice that I would give to a young actor is to really know in your heart that this is your passion. And it is, slow and steady wins the race. I was married to an actor for many years. My daughter for a second, God forbid, thought that she was going to be an actor. But I think growing up in a household where she would hear me on the phone probably terrified her. I think that it has to be something that you love, because it's unfortunately, very difficult. And I think that you have to look very, very deep into, I'm sorry to be psychological, but Dr. Shor is in, and, people pay me for this usually. I think you need to look very deep within yourself, that it is not just about your talent, it is about your emotional ability to survive. I mean, when Tova asked earlier, it's the same thing for me. I just kept going. I kept picking myself up, when I got thrown off the jet, and, surviving. And it is the emotional aspects of this business that will kill you. So you need to really look at your support system. You have to look deep into yourself and know that it is not about your talent, which is obviously a given. It is about your emotional ability to take it.
And get up again.
Is that
I
a good
remember they used
answer?
to ask Ali McGraw,
It was different then.
It was
easier
different then, but
Oh,
still,
honey, it was so easy then.
About her success, and she said, well, everybody else left, they couldn't take it.
Yeah,
So,
it's true.
Hi, thank you for coming, and it's a very touching movie. My name is Aina, and I'm from China.
Hi.
I'm a filmmaker here, but I have a producing question. Now I'm developing a feature with two partners for like producers. But now because it's a independent movie and the budget is limited, and the genre is like drama and romantic. So for the financing part, she thinks we should have a star so we can distribute it easier. But for another partner, she thinks the quality is more important, so we don't need get star, we need get a better movie. So what's your suggestion?
Well, boy, that's some question, honey.
really?
I'll take this, don't worry. I got this.
Thank
All
you.
right, number one, do you have a script?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
my script.
Do you love the script? Do you believe in the script?
Yes.
And number one, protect the movie.
Okay.
Always protect the movie. You have to serve the film, because as a producer and as a filmmaker and as a creator, if you don't serve the film, you don't serve anyone. Because if you make a bad movie, you're not serving your financiers. So that said, it is a fine line between getting the movie made where the financiers are going to sign off. But my advice to you, particularly if it's your first film, is to scale your vision as far back and make your movie for I can't believe it. I got, with a young filmmaker that I'm mentoring, I did a movie for $600,000. And honey, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And of course I had a full all-star cast, but that's me. But you can make a movie for $100,000, $150,000, $200,000. There are stars that are wonderful actors. There are women who aren't able to work right now. There are people who've been in television. It's all about putting together the jigsaw that works. But what you need to know is that you need to make a good movie, because that is what ultimately will serve you and your financiers and the actors who are willing to work with you. So serve the film.
My name is Ivory. I am a master's documentary filmmaking student.
Good for you.
But thank you. And I'm graduating in September. And I guess my biggest question, I want to get into producing. I produce all my documentaries and a few others. I want to know from you, is it more important for me to get a cushy, like 9-to-5 company job in the film industry, or should I just bust my butt being like a PA for everybody?
So if you want to be a documentary filmmaker, which is something that, unlike many other arenas, you have the ability to create in your own space. I mean, that's something that's very editor heavy. So just, get Final Cut and you can do it at home. Have a vision, have a point of view as a filmmaker. I think that the more experience if you have an attraction to the documentary world, and go find a company that makes documentaries and learn as much as you can about it. There's, that's obvious. Look at it, go work at HBO in their, division. Go figure out who's actually, PBS, who's actually producing that. It is an incredible world, and I've made quite a few of them. I'm working on one now. There's no money in it, and it takes a long time, but it's the stuff that educates the world. And so if that's your vision, bravo. Find a subject and own it and dream about it. And if you do it in 6 months or 3 years, it doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you.
And by the way, there's no 9-to-5 cushy jobs in the movie business.
Yeah, I want that job. I never had that job. I got fired from all those jobs.
Hi, good evening. My question is, when you have a script that you absolutely believe in, that you think is fantastic, and you believe that there are certain star talent that you think would be absolutely perfect in those roles, what advice do you have for approaching that talent?
Well, that's the most difficult thing. I mean, it's the chicken or the egg. You either have the money so you can go out to the talent, or you have the talent so you can get the money. And I don't know. People ask me this question all the time. I mean, I have been in this business for a long time. We're not going to go into numbers, but let's just say a long time. And people always say, how do you do it? I'm like, I've put 30 years of relationships into this business, and 30 years of telling the truth, and 30 years of having all the big mucky mucks at all the big agencies be assistants when I was calling their bosses, who were no longer here, and being apparently very nice to them, because they always say, oh, don't you remember me? I'm running the agency now, but I used to answer the phone for, so-and-so. I'm like, I was doing drugs back then. I don't remember anything, but I'm glad I was nice to you. And it's really about this is a business of relationships, and that is the thing that you have to remember. I work with filmmakers. It's very rare. I develop material. Sometimes I'll take it to a director, but mostly I have relationships with a certain number of directors that I work with. I mean, I'm trying to find a piece of material to give to Alfonso, which, he's done Children of Men, and then he did Gravity. So it'll be another 6 years before he does another movie. But I work with people. And I think that it's managing to get past the representation, blood-brain block is very, very difficult, and it's based on relationships. So I think do a brilliant short, so that you have something to show people. Find money so you can offer money. Figure out how to get your script on the blacklist.
Hire a casting director.
Unfortunately, all roads lead to, do you have the cash? And as a producer, your word as to whether or not that's another thing. I do tell the truth. So when an agent says to me, is this movie financed? I'll either say, can you believe it? It's fucking financed. Or I'll say, I'll finance it when I get your client to do it. Or I'll say, that's what they tell me. They tell me I got the money. I don't know. Let's see what happens. But it is the truth as I know it at that day, on that day and in that moment. And that's all you got. I always say, honey, I don't have the money in the way many producers do, but I have my word and I have my character and I speak the truth. And that, again, You know, you have to, there's a lot of different ways to skin this town, baby. And I'm just telling you my way. My way was not the easy way. You know, money is the easy way, you know, but the other of us just have talent and can talk on the phone. So,
Great, thank you very much.
so just do, you know, be good. That's how you be good and do good work, and that's how you keep going. That's how you make it work.
Have a great script. Somehow it will find its way.
It's about the work.
I was wondering, what is the one script that you've always wanted to get fully produced, but for some reason hasn't taken off?
I would say Finn, which was the project that Lee and I, you know, started reconnected on, which is really dark. And it's period, which nobody, I mean, I was an Elizabethan and Jacobean history major at Smith College. I mean, I love Jane Austen and, you know, that I love period. And that is not something that people want to make. So I tend to love that world and have empathy for the fineness of how communication is and those kind of things. And I always say, you know, I'm interested in telling stories about family because at the core of it, that's what life is about. Whether it's the family of a group of people working in an office, whether it's the family of soldiers in Iraq, whether it's my crazy family, God knows her crazy family, you know, it's about family. I mean, that's what The Butler was about. You know, that's what Children of Men was about. That's what Paperboy was about. So I'm obviously interested in and always have been attracted to that world. I only wish that I could do dopey comedies. Please God, I would love to do a dopey comedy. It's not what I can do. And it's not what somebody's gonna want me to do. So I got a lot of them. I got a lot of things I really wish that I've developed so many scripts over the years that haven't gone that just is heartbreaking to me. So that's too big of a question. It's going to depress me.
You know what I wanted to tell you? I went to the Guggenheim Museum and they were showing, there was a big exhibition of Frank Gehry. Mm-hmm. And I was astounded how many of his buildings, of his project, never got made. Mm-hmm. It's the same in architecture and stuff because he was so ahead of its time and people would get excited and will get him the money to design and he also, you know, he already had the prototype and then they didn't go with this.
Well, that's a really good note to self to say just for all of you in the business, you know, the biggest skill a producer has is pushing it through, you know, is closing the deal, whether it's a director who wants to bolt off of bolt at the last minute, an actress who freaks out, the money freaks out. It's being able to, through sheer will, keep the package together. It's really that ability to just hold tight and give confidence that we're going to get through this. And there's always a bump in the road. And that's, you know, really it. You know, everybody's, you know, note to self, everybody's frightened. So, is that depressing? That shouldn't be depressing because movies get made. And now you all have, honey, you guys have digital now. You got it easy.
Yeah.
I mean, content, baby. Little mini, you know, do your little mini content. So
next week we have here somebody who took the high school course here, and then he started to do, you know, those digital little short for
interstitials. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for YouTube and whatnot. And then he was co-founder of Maker Studios, which sold to Disney for $950
so much
million.
Richer than us. What were we thinking?
Yes.
Yeah, how you doing? My name is Shane Miller. I'm in the MFA producing program.
Hi.
And this movie carries a big emotional weight in dealing with racism and family. So I'm also a screenwriter, and I was wondering, what was your process in finding a writer that was able to go in and sit down and produce, to create this story?
Well, first of all, that wasn't me. That was Laura Ziskin. Laura Ziskin, who is unfortunately passed on, was a very well-known producer who had a deal at Sony, and she optioned the article that this story was based on and developed it. And, you know, development is something that doesn't happen anymore. in the olden days, and God knows we've developed things, a studio had money and they would option books, and then they would pay for screenplay after screenplay, and millions of dollars would be spent. And The Butler was kind of on the last little gasp of that. And Danny Strong knew Laura, and he wrote the script for The Butler. So I can't answer that because it wasn't me. I was just the lucky
producer,
person at the end of the road. Well, it takes a village. There's
Really?
It always takes a village, and anybody who says to you it's about me on my line of work is not telling the truth, because it's, there's everybody has their role, and it's about everybody doing that. So, and Danny, I can't say enough about. He's fabulous. And he and Lee, Lee came on and they rewrote it, and there you go.
And now we have Empire. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
I wanted to ask you, because I know you have to leave. You worked in London for a while on a film or something. Is it just my impression, or are there more women producers that are very, very strong and doing great movies over there than here?
Well, I was lucky enough because of, the first movie I ever did was with Ewan McGregor. It's called Eye of the Beholder. And it was Ashley Judd and Ewan McGregor and this young director at the time who'd just done a little movie we worked on called Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Eye of the Beholder was not as successful, nor was it as fun. But because of that, and through my relationship with Ewan and his representatives, I started spending a tremendous time in the UK. And I've been very, very lucky in that I kind of, as an American, discovered that world, which is probably what you're referring to. So I was the first person ever to meet, I don't know, you name it.
Butler.
Everything, Eddie Redmayne and Hugh Dancy and, Luke Evans, who's Dracula I met before he had ever done film. And I've just been very lucky to be, fairy godmother to all of these British talent who now, thank God, can get movies made. But I think that it is endemic to the way the BBC and Film 4 and the difference over there between what for us is premium cable, which I think is the same thing. I think that there was a world between BBC Film, BBC One, that was peopled by, women and the people who could do the best work. And quite frankly, I loved working in the UK. I mean, the crews and the approach of, it's about the work, was excellent, bar none. And I think that, I think that there's, being a woman in any business is difficult, but I think in the creative aspects of working in the UK, there's a lot of really, really strong women, and it's a good observation.
Okay, and what's next for you? Let's hear that, and then we can let her go eat sushi.
Yes. I have a television show that I'm doing. I have something that's going at one of the children's networks, and they keep saying to me, Hilary, you cannot curse in front of the little children. When we're casting, you can't say that was fucking fabulous. I'm having a lot of fun in that. And then I have 2 films with three films actually, with some young filmmakers that I'm working on right now, that I'm casting, that seem to have financing, which is that go anywhere from 1.5 to $15 million.
And how did you get the script with the young filmmakers? And did they come already with some money in financing?
2 did, thank God, and 1 didn't.
I see.
And with the one that's the smallest, it's a young female director that I decided who was introduced to me through a mutual friend. And it's my pro bono, and it's about my giving back, because when I was 24 and got to town and kind of was a mess and really could not have survived without the kindnesses of strangers and people who said, there's something about this girl, and I'm going to be there for her, and I'm going to back her up, and whether it's lending me their car or lending me money or letting me sleep, or just supporting me and seeing something in me. And so this one film is really about as a woman, trying to give back to this business, which has given back to me in ways other than financial, which has given me my life, and hopefully you'll all be able to sit here in 30 years and be able to still be here and feel like there's a message that you can say. And that's really at the end of this, that you've got to come from a point of view, you have to take a stand about what it is you want to say from your heart. Because if you're in it just to make a living and get that cushy job, which I have yet to find, there's better ways to make a living. Do it from the heart.
Okay, so what can I tell you? She gave up sitting with Nicole Kidman at the Women in Film tonight.
I'll never forgive you.
She came here.
For old friends. I mean, this is an example. I've known Tova, was a big Hollywood producer when I first met her, and she was always very kind to me. And I'm here, saying thank you.
I'm blushing, but I have to say I am really glad that you came. I think that what you're saying was very, very helpful, and it was delivered in a very entertaining way.
Thank you, Dawn.